With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
This is GKV Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month. This is GKB Foods.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk About. My name is Sedi Nam Togo Lamadeku. Let's Talk About is a midweek talk show organized by the Trinity United Church Legon, where we discuss issues that bother the everyday Christian. Today, we are talking about what to do in an emergency. And with emergencies, we mean in medical emergencies. I have with me Dr. Nathan Kwabla, a family doctor. Welcome, doctor.
Thank you very much.
And to my immediate left, I have Dr. Eugene Adomako, a resident emergency physician or doctor.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. This week, like I said, we are discussing what to do in a medical emergency. This week's LTA is sponsored by Coolant Catering Services, a world-class catering service that makes all your events memorable by providing delectable meals that leave you wanting more. They cater for funerals, weddings, parties, and any dinners you might have. You can contact them on 020-2110-134, 020-2110-134. We'd like to remind you that we are streaming live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms at Trinity United Church on Facebook and YouTube. We also have a WhatsApp number 0501-579-996. 0501-579-996. We are open to your questions, your suggestions, objections, or any comments you might have. Please join in the discussion. We'll go right into it. Good evening and welcome again.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that we get to discuss something like this, to inform and educate ourselves. So we'll dive right into the discussion. But before we start, Dr. Nathan, would you like to give us a little insight into what a medical emergency is in the sense of the phrase?
All right. Thank you very much. So when we talk about an emergency or a medical emergency, we are looking at an unexpected illness or injury that may occur to someone, that may occur and threaten life, limb of an individual, and will require immediate medical help to, salvage the situation. So that's what we can term as a medical emergency.
Right, so I'll stay with you.
Okay.
You mentioned something that requires immediate intervention, sort of. And we've known as laymen and women that in situations like that, first aid is important.
Exactly.
So please give us a few principles of first aid.
Okay, so when we look at first aid, the main principles of first aid, first of all, is that we want to preserve life. So in whatever medical situation you find yourself in, you want to make sure that the person stays alive and death is avoided. And then you also want to prevent further harm. So something has happened and you find the situation, you want to make sure that, yes, you are making sure that they don't die, but then also you want to avoid further injury happening to the person. And then the last principle will be the fact that you also want to promote recovery. And so you want to ensure that once that emergency situation is being dealt with and, the person is coming back out of it, they can recover fully and properly with as little damage as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. So as the discussion progresses, we are going to be picking some situations, some medical emergency situations, and then we'll look at how to deal with them to prevent death or preserve life, to promote recovery,
yes,
and to prevent further harm or damage. I beg your pardon. So we'll go to Dr. Nathan. When a child has a fever, what should you do?
Well, first off, what is a fever?
Okay.
So mostly we have a lot of people misinterpret or mispresent what a fever should be.
Okay.
Okay. So usually, objectively, we should have a temperature that determines that this is a fever. Okay, so you have a normal body temperature, which usually comes all the way down from 37.8 downwards. Then anything above that is considered significant. It becomes a medical emergency because in children who a medical emergency because in children who are mostly from the age of 0 to up to about 5 or 6 years, it poses a certain risk for them. It could even make them have seizures, which can become much more complicated. So there are a host of things that can cause a fever. So a fever is just like a response to something that has entered the body which is not supposed to be there. Yes. So treating the fever is not the end of a problem.
Okay.
Yes. But when a child has a fever, what we usually or when you think a child is hot, if you have a thermometer at home, you can check what the temperature is. And if you're having temperatures that are above 37.5, 37.8, then you can intervene by giving some antipyretics. Okay, but then, like we said, there's a host of things that can cause a child to have a fever, meaning that it doesn't end there. The fact that the temperature has come down does not mean that the problem that is causing the fever has been abated. So it's just an initial thing to do, just like we said, to prevent the illness from escalating. And it means that you have to follow up with the full recovery, which means that you need to get as urgent as possible the medical care that you need.
Okay.
Yes. So mostly, sometimes some simple things as taking off excess clothing, some simple things as doing some tepid sponging, and then if available, providing some antibiotics, commonly paracetamol.
Okay.
Other times, things like ibuprofen, if there are no things that prevent you from providing a child with that. But the most safest drugs that you can use for a child with fever is paracetamol.
Okay.
And then once that is done, that should not be the end of it. You should be looking forward to send a child
To the
to the
hospital.
nearest hospital for further assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
But I have a concern. How do you know the right dosage of paracetamol to give to a child running a fever, who has a fever?
Yes, that's a very good question. So usually medications especially for children are given in based on weight.
Okay.
Okay. I would not want to put
don't
out.
go to no.
Yes.
Don't go
I
too
don't want to
much.
put out the doses to
Okay.
encourage the use, but I'm sure most children have been to the hospital where they've been prescribed some amount of paracetamol
Okay.
or some amount of medication from their previous visits.
Okay.
Yes, so it's not far-fetched from their most recent weight when they visited the hospital.
Okay.
Okay. So if you've been prescribed before, you can go ahead. If you've not been prescribed before, you can report to the nearest pharmacy, discuss with the MC or the pharmacist there, and then they will use the age to sometimes estimate the weight and provide you with appropriate dose. Okay. So if you're unsure, you can report to the nearest pharmacy and then get some.
If you're
directions
unsure,
from there.
always seek for help.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Eugene. Dr. Nathan.
Yes.
This is a very common one. For those of us who went to high school in this day and age, people faint a lot, or people were fainting so many times, What do you do for someone who has for someone like me, who has no medical, training or background of any sort? Someone faints right now, what should I do?
Okay, thank you for the question. So for anyone who faints, like you're saying, it's a very common thing, and a number of things can cause fainting. What we usually see happen is that a lot of people rush to people who faint, and then they are either pouring water or shaking the person, trying to pick the person up as soon as possible. Some of these things could help, but then there's a better way to go about it. Okay, so first of all, you want to make sure that wherever the person has fainted is a safe space or is a safe area. So we are making sure there's no danger around. And then you want to then call out to the person. So you are looking for a response from the person. You can either, if you know their name, you shout their name, or you say Madam or Mr. or Sir, can you hear me? What's your name? That is response. Okay. Then if you do get a response from them, say they're able to mention their name or speak to you, then we know that at least their hearts, their airway is open and working well. in that very instance, what you need to do is to make sure that the person is not surrounded, by a lot of people, because you want a lot of air coming in, and then you also want to make sure that the person either remains on the floor or in the position they found themselves in. You don't want to pick them up immediately. This is because you can have their blood pressures drop too quickly, depending on what the issues are. Now, if, for instance, the person doesn't respond, then what you need to do is to send for help. So call out to somebody close by and ask them to call for help. Either you call other people who are knowledgeable in first aid or basic life support, or call for the ambulance. And then you move on to now assess the person. Now there's a certain procedure that we advise, and this is not just for medical professionals, but then for every individual, you should be able to do some level of basic life support, and it's what we call the ABCs, A, B, C, D, and sometimes we even go to E and F. And I'll just briefly touch on these things, what the A, B, C, D talks about. So basically, you want to make sure that their airway is patent. So you want to make sure that there's nothing choking them or blocking the airway. So you would open the person's mouth to look in, make sure there's no food, vomit, saliva blocking there, make sure that their nostrils are also not blocked. And then you also want to make sure that they are breathing. So you are looking at the chest to make sure that it's rising. And then that helps you to know that they are breathing. You can also put a hand by their nostrils, and you feel the breath on your hand. You know that the breathing is going on. And then there's also what we call circulation. You want to make sure that the heart is pumping and pushing blood around. And so you want to check for a pulse. And you can usually do that just below the angle of the neck. Right here, you can feel the person's pulse to know if the heart is beating and there's blood moving around. And then we have, for D, that's what we call disability. You want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to cause any disability for the patient. And then E is exposure. There's nothing around that might harm the person, any further. But the most important, the first few ones are ABCs, and it's very important for you to know that. Once the person is not responsive, is not breathing, then you want to move into CPR, and I'm sure we'll get into that later on. Yes. Now, if the person is breathing and has responded, then you want to put them in what we call the recovery position. And that's another thing I'm sure that we'll deal with in CPR, and that helps to make sure that the person's airway remains open and patent. And then you want to give them about 10 to 20 minutes before you either help them sit up or put them on a stretcher, on a wheelchair, and then get to a medical facility for further help.
Right. I'd like to ask, what is our ambulance response time in Ghana? That is to Dr. Nathan and Dr. Eugene. Anyone can take it. Do we have a response time?
Well,
okay.
It may sound surprising, but it's mostly pretty much rapid.
Please give me time.
I can't really give a time frame to it.
No range.
Not really. So I think what most people encounter, the challenge most people encounter is reaching them on the short code that we know.
Right.
The 112 that we mostly know.
Yeah.
But then they actually also have some numbers that are available.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that subsequently those numbers will be made available.
Okay.
So I think we all know about the ambulances that were made available for various districts. Yeah, so at every point or at every district, I think there's an ambulance available thanks to the government. And then each of these ones have a control room or a response room that you can call easily, which has so those numbers are usually the 10-digit number, not necessarily the short codes.
Okay.
Even though the short codes work, I'm sure we all don't have too much of a good experience with the short codes.
Yeah.
Yes, but then those numbers are available. So I think that those ones need to be also propagated.
Okay.
So probably we'll share them at the end of the show, the ones that are available, especially for the ones in the Greater Accra region. But the response is pretty much immediate once you get to them.
Now that we have gotten some hope. that the response time is good. Is it free to use the ambulance or the ambulance services? Is it free?
I can't speak much to that.
Okay.
Yes, I cannot speak
I
much
think we
to
have
that.
our answer. Okay, so now that Dr. Nathan has touched on leaving the airways patent and everything, I think something close to that could be choking. So I want us to touch, Dr. Eugene, to touch a bit on what to do when someone is choking and you know you're the only one around to help. What do you do?
Okay. So you would notice that at the front part of your neck, there's one thing there. There's a bulge over here. And then usually when you take in a very, very large bolus of kinky or a hot banku, you can feel it in your back. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before. So there's another tube that goes right behind this one, where food will pass through the mouth and then gets into the stomach for digestion to continue. I realized that over here there's a bulge, meaning that there's a brick sort of.
Okay.
And then that tube passes right behind it. So usually if you take usual than bigger bites, or sometimes not necessarily usual than bigger bites, but then these boluses that have been taken goes to lodge right behind it. Then it means that, so this tube in front actually conducts air into our lungs to help us breathe. So if you are taking something in there that is blocking that particular conduction, then it means that you are going to be gasping for air. Okay. So then, first off, how do you notice that somebody is choking? That's where the important thing comes. So there's something that we call the universal choke sign.
Universal choke sign.
Yes, universal choke sign.
Okay.
So usually you see somebody who was probably eating, and then the next thing the person is doing is this.
Okay.
Yes. They are not telling you the food is delicious or whatever it may be. They are actually in distress, and then they need to be relieved as soon as possible. Okay. It is not advisable that you go using your hand to sweep objects that are in the throat, because you may end up pushing it down and may worsen the person's predicament. So when that happens, what we are going to demonstrate along the line whilst we are doing our CPR. But it's a maneuver that we call the Heimlich maneuver. Okay, basically what we are doing is just providing some form of thrust in the upper abdomen to help bring out the object. Or if it's a child, we provide some form of slaps in the back. And then some thrust on the chest. Yes, I think we'll go ahead and we'll demonstrate
during the CPR.
As it goes along. But then also, if this person, after doing this, you are able to intervene as fast as possible, and the person collapses before you get there. There's also another way you approach it,
which we'll learn, I'm sure.
Which we'll also learn along when we get to the.
Right. Thank you so much for your submission. In the meantime, we'll take an icebreaker. We'll be right back. Please leave us questions and suggestions and comments, and don't go anywhere.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
A community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So At no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
Hi, and welcome back to this week's episode of Let's Talk About. My name is Nam Togo Lamadiku. This week we've been looking at what to do in medical emergency situations. Thank you for not going anywhere and staying tuned in. We'd like to remind you that we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at Trinity United Church. Our Facebook pages are labeled Trinity United Church on Facebook and YouTube. We also have a WhatsApp number 0501 5799996 0501 5799996 where I would like to take your questions, your comments, or any suggestions you might have. This week's Let's Talk About episode is brought to you by Coolant Catering Services, a world-class catering service that caters for weddings, parties, and funerals. They provide delectable meals that will leave you wanting more. You can contact them on 020-2110-134. 020-2110-134. Our second sponsor is Electrodaco House. You can up your lighting game in your houses with high-quality LED bulbs from them. They are representatives of Philips and LG Grand brand. In the course of the show, we'll give you a contact number so you can patronize them. In the meantime, I have with me Dr. Eugene Adomako and Dr. Nathan Kwabla. And we've been discussing things to do in medical emergency situations. Welcome back, gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us too. Okay, so before we went on the
And so a seizure mainly comes from abnormal brain activity.
Okay.
Now, when you notice someone has a seizure, and most of the time you notice it when they are having these jerky movements of their hands or the limbs, what you want to do is that, first of all, remember one of the first principles is danger. You want to make sure that the scene is safe, first for yourself and then also the one who is having the issue. And so you want to take away any objects that are close to the individual that may hurt the individual. So tables, sharp objects, chairs, anything that can hurt the person. And then you want to observe the person as the seizure stops. You don't want to hold them and try to restrict them. The other important thing too is also for you to note the time that the seizure started and when it stopped.
Okay.
So the duration. Now, when the seizure does stop, you now want to assess the person. So you want to, for most people, they might become unresponsive or lose consciousness. So you want to check your ABCs again, make sure that the airway is clear and is the person breathing, and then is there circulation. If all these things are clear, then you put the person in a recovery position. If the airway is not clear, for instance, some of them might foam at the mouth.
Yeah.
You want to help clear it, and then also the recovery position can help to do that. Now, in checking the airway, we also have what we call the chin lift and jaw thrust, which I'm sure will also
we'll
be,
look at, right.
Showcase. That also helps to open up the airway and help you to look out properly. Then you also want to take away any tight clothing that is surrounding the individual. And then once the person becomes conscious, you can then begin to talk to the person, find out what the medical history is. At this point, you should have probably called for help. For some people, in some situations, if a seizure is from what we call epilepsy, so the person is known to have seizures, in some instances, I'm saying this cautiously, you may not, necessarily immediately need to go to a hospital. Because it's something that may happen often. And they know how to handle it, right? Exactly. But if it's not, then you want to get to a hospital, as soon as possible. Now, if the person is unresponsive, there's no breathing, there's no circulation, then that's when we move into our CPR or basic life support, which we would look at.
Exactly. We keep, pushing the CPR to the end part because we want to have time to demonstrate it. So I think we should exercise some patience.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So this is a very common one. Road accidents. They're on the spike, almost every day someone crashes. It's sad, but it looks like it is not ending yet. We are looking for solutions to it as, individuals and the country. But what do you do? So every time you are going to work, you are going to school, you're on the road, you are either the driver or the pedestrian. When an accident scene occurs and you are not the victim, what are some of the things you can do to, preserve life, promote, recovery and all of that, Dr. Eugene?
Okay, so with this particular one, it will follow the same principle.
Okay.
Same principle in the sense that scene safety when a road accident happens is paramount.
Okay.
Not just road accidents. Any kind of accident, any kind of disaster that happens, scene safety is very, very important.
Okay.
If you recall some of our unfortunate events that has happened over the couple of years, it was out of curiosity that we had more fatalities. So maybe the unfortunate event that happened somewhere in the mines in the western region, there was a first blast. Then people wanted to see what was happening there, so they went there to find out, or probably to go help others.
Yeah.
And then there was a second one, and then almost an entire town were in trouble after that.
Yeah.
Scene safety can only be declared by the fire service and the police.
Okay.
So you don't really have so much to do when you have an accident, especially if it's the accident has happened. It's in a very complicated setting. Okay, you have to wait for. That's why the police and the fire service are the first respondents when it comes to accidents. You don't even see health personnel there
clearing the place, right?
It's the police and the fire service personnel, because cars are a bit dicey. So maybe the accident has happened. Some electrical wires are exposed that are at risk of catching fire and all that. I'm sure in movies we mostly see it happen right after you see the car just
moves off.
Yeah, it just explodes. It can happen actually in real life. Okay. But should the scene be declared safe, meaning that health professionals are on their way, what you can do that may not worsen the patient's problem. Usually, in our bid to help, we rather cause more problems.
Right.
Yes. So, in an accident, some things are very essential, like our cervical spine. So our neck, very, very essential. So you wonder why when somebody wants to kill themselves, they try to hang themselves here. So usually it's not as a result of, and you wonder why when in countries where they do death by hanging, you realize that it's not just about, they could have just held the person's neck and strangulated, but what they do is take out like a height from whatever is there. This is not to incite anybody or anything of that
Don't
sort.
try this at home.
Yes, but the whole point is the bones here, by doing that, are snapped, and immediately that happens,
You die.
it means you are dead. The same way in an accident where the mechanism is not so clear, and we don't know what is happening to the person's neck, indiscriminately moving the person in a bit to help can actually cause problems.
Okay.
I know that sometimes we are in a hurry to become good Samaritans by moving the person from the site into our cars, the way we carry them and move them, that alone can be a problem.
Okay.
Yes. So what you can do in the meantime when the scene is declared safe, it's just a simple rule. So there's something called 32 can do. 32
Can do.
can do. Okay. So the 30, you are just going to see if the person is able to, if the person has like first of all, you are going to ask everybody to move to one side. You're going to ask everybody to move to one side. The moment you see somebody move from one side to the other, that person is not in danger. If you say, okay, after the accident, all of you move to this side. If somebody is able to move from one point to the other, it means that that person is not in danger. Then it means you have the rest to deal with.
Okay.
Okay. Then what you are going to look at next is to make sure the person is breathing at least. Okay, maybe you may not have the time to be able to count the respiratory rate. So this 32 can do is also more technical for maybe a health professional that has gotten there.
Okay.
So you're just watching to see if the person is able to breathe.
Okay.
Then if the person is not able to breathe, you are going to teach some few maneuvers here.
Okay.
Maybe open the airway to see if the person is still able to breathe or not. If that's not happening, you can go ahead and check if the person is actually having a pulse. So Dr. Kobler told us how to be able to check for a pulse.
Yes.
See if that's also there. Okay. And then also the next thing you do is ask the person to maybe, are you able to raise your hand? Or are you able to do this? The person able to do that. That will help you to risk stratify those who need to be moved to the hospital immediately and those who can wait for the ambulance service to be able to come and carry them.
All right.
Okay. So what's important is to make sure your scene is safe. Don't always jump into it. I know that sometimes you always want to help, but especially in a very complicated, unlike maybe the car has knocked one person down, where you can get to the scene and then do something. When it's an actual like scene, you need to be careful walking into the scene. Okay,
So
you can make the calls to the appropriate authorities to get there, and then when they get there and they've declared the scene safe, you can move in and then help with trying to help sort out their issues. But if it's an individual person that has been knocked down by a car, like I said, the neck is very important. What you need to do is just make sure that you are keeping the neck straight and the person is not moving the neck left and right. You can do that until help arrives, where they can come and put a definitive something around the neck to keep it straight.
To keep it straight.
Okay, so please, scene safety is very important.
Okay.
If the scene is not safe, you end up going to add up to the fatalities, which is not important. I mean, you defeat the whole purpose in the long run.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think we tried to do the surface thing, but you've really taken us into it. Thank you. Now let's talk about electrocution. So recently a friend told me a very sad story of how his brother died from electrocution, and it was sad. In movies, we just see that, okay, the person touches something and some current goes through their body, they fall off somewhere or something. But Dr. Kwabla, when someone gets electrocuted, what is electrocution in the first? Is it me touching my heater the wrong way and then it burns me or something? What is it, and how do I handle it?
So this tends to happen when there's significant electrical, should I say, conduction from an exposed source of electricity to an individual. And in such situations, we can have high or low voltage electrocutions, depending on the source. Now, for low voltage electrocutions, which may happen with some simple appliances at home, scene safety is very important. So you want to make sure that you are either disconnecting the power, or if you are able to safely do that, move the person from the area where they can get re-electrocuted. So if there's water around, you want to make sure the power is off completely before you move the person. Now, when it's high voltage, in this particular instance, such charges can actually jump, I forget the distance, but I think as far as 18 feet or so. And so from the person, it can jump to you. So you want to make sure, once again, the power is taken out by the necessary professionals. So if it's, like he's mentioned, the fire department or our ECG officials, then we do that. Once you're able to get the person out of that dangerous scene, the same principles follow. So danger is taken care of. You are checking for response, and then you are calling for help, and then you go into your ABCs, and that is mainly the principle that you are looking to do. Now, if there are bends or cuts in any way, then we have to deal with those too. So for bends, you want to make sure that you can run cool water over it, not cold, but cool water over it for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then you want to apply, dressing over it to prevent further worsening. If there are blisters, you don't want to break them. You want to just leave them as they are. And then once the person gets to a medical facility, we adequately take care of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the in-depth knowledge. Now, we have a question. We have other, medical situations. You want to add something?
Yes, maybe
okay,
in addition
please
to this.
Please
so, usually when you have an electrical injury,
right?
So the obvious ones or the overt ones are the ones that he has mentioned, talking about,
right?
Yes, but then you could have it happening to various parts of various organ systems.
Yes.
If I say organ systems, the body functions because every other thing comes together. So the heart and its issues, the brain and its issues. So you can have electricity affecting each of these places. Okay, so sometimes some of these things may be occult or may be hiding. So it's always important too that anytime you're exposed to some form of electrical current, okay, especially from a possibly high voltage one. The high voltage ones are even will even maybe cause you to have some issues. So that one obviously you end up in the hospital.
Okay.
But even the low voltage ones, the ones that we may consider low voltage, sometimes it's important to just get some form of assessment.
Yes.
Yeah, so that you can make sure that you are taking away all of those occult or life-threatening issues that may come up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for adding that.
Yes. And also electrocution actually means that you are dead.
Oh,
yes.
Really?
Yes. So your electrical injury means that you sustain an injury.
Okay. So from today, we'll start saying when you have an electrical injury, we won't say electrocution again. Thank you for the education. Okay, so our question says, Edinam, a viewer, is actually asking that is it good to bathe, especially kids, with cold water when they are running a fever at home in an attempt to reduce the high temperature? So Dr. Eugene talked about the fever, so over to you.
Yeah, so I know there's a school of thought that says that you do that, it actually
reduces
them.
It doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
Okay.
No, I'm actually coming to
okay.
Some say when you start from the head or something, you end up having a seizure, which you're trying to prevent and all that. But yes, cooling methods are all important. Because should you come to the hospital with very, very, very high fevers where those are in a different setting of an emergency, we sometimes even do active cooling. We even put cold water in places like your bladder and other things to make sure you're cool. So there's nothing wrong with applying or doing a tepid sponge, like you call, to make sure that the fever comes down. But remember, it is not the end of the fever. There's an issue or there's something causing the fever that needs to be investigated. And it needs to be found out as soon as possible. Or sometimes your hand is cold, a child feels warmer, you touch the child without a thermometer, you think child has a fever. Just go have a full assessment. Especially for children, it's very important that you
treat the root cause and then get it out of there. Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Nathan, this is yours. Reverend Dr. Martin Obin, our minister in charge, he says, thanks for the education. If a child in school feels feverish, what should the teacher do?
wonderful. So if a child in school feels feverish, so one thing I've realized is that a lot of people have different definitions for feverish. Some of my patients will say feverish means it's a headache, I feel weak. Some will say cold, I feel cold and hot. So it will be very important that we find out what exactly the particular child is experiencing. And then in most of our educational institutions, we may have sick bays or areas that you can seek medical attention. You can then proceed to that particular area, and then as has been mentioned earlier, paracetamol is our very good friend that can be given for when somebody has a temperature or they're feeling cold. It can even be given for headaches as well. And so that is one of the first things you can do to help the child feel better before you seek further care.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question, right? When someone gets a burn, I hope I'm not saying it wrongly this time around. A burn, hot water burn, your hot soup pours on you, candle wax, rubber melts, anything, they cause blisters, your iron burns you and everything. How do you deal with that, Dr. Eugene? Because in my house, we put olive oil, I pour water on it because I read on the internet somewhere that you pour water on it and the heat comes out, a lot of things. Some people put toothpaste, so many things.
The highest form of wickedness I've seen is somebody applying pepper.
On the bed.
That was very, very,
Oh.
that was uncalled
It's unfortunate,
for. Yes, so usually burns come in various degrees, okay. From the items or from the things that you've described, they usually will cause what you call the first degree burns. The most appropriate thing to do, yes, you can apply some water over the area to cool the place.
That's not wrong.
Yes, but you have to avoid applying any other thing over the place. Yes, just report to the nearest facility. And
even if it's a small iron burn or something.
Yes, of course you can apply. So you can have the water to cool the place.
Okay.
And you can do some dressing, but you see, it's sometimes it becomes a little dicey.
Right.
The reason why I wouldn't want to be advising the dressing, self-dressing at home is because it depends on the degree and extent, or how extensive the burn is.
Right.
Yes, but if it's small, of course you can have the cool water to cool the place down a little. Sometimes some blisters may form. You may leave them intact, they may rupture later on and go off. Other times you could have this antibiotic cream, but I don't like to
go to the hospital.
Yes, I don't like to encourage people to self-use antibiotics.
Okay.
Yes, but the ointment that causes no harm.
Okay.
So there are some ointments that contain some antibiotics that can help. Okay. Yes, but usually if you are in doubt or you need to report to the hospital, especially if it's an extensive burn, okay, because some burn may even require you to be in the hospital, others can be managed outside the hospital.
Right.
And the burn that you may consider as insignificant because maybe you just had your palms burn can actually be very, very detrimental. So you have your palms burn or your hand burnt, and then if you don't have it attended to properly, you end up having what you call the contractures. They heal and then you're unable to open your palms, your hands, and all of that. So it depends.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's best to. I know we don't like the hospitals, but yes, we should just seek the necessary attention when needed. So cold water. Sometimes you may apply some sterile dressing if you have it available. Report. Avoid toothpaste. Avoid soup. Avoid pepper. Avoid curry powder. All that kind of things.
We will. Yes, now, Dr. Nathan, let's talk about asthmatic attacks. You'd consider that a medical emergency, wouldn't you?
Yes. Okay. In some situations, they can be very bad.
Okay. So, over the years, I've heard calm the person down, reassure. But I've seen attacks, They just want to die, find some air and all of that. So teach us. What should we do?
Great. So for an asthmatic attack, like you are saying, they can be very, very critical and fatal. Now, in that particular situation, if you know that the individual is an asthmatic, hopefully, and I'm saying hopefully because sometimes our asthmatics don't do that, but they should have their inhaler
around, right?
Yes. You want to get them in open air that is not contaminated. So you don't want an area where there's a lot of dust or smoke, which can worsen it. You want to get them in a situation like that. And then you want to have them use their inhaler properly. And so there are steps on how to use an inhaler so that you're getting maximum benefits. Once you're able to do that, you can give it to them over a 20-minute period to help to reduce the symptoms. But once you give them an initial puff, then you want to start making arrangements to move to the hospital. So open air space, use the inhaler, and let's get to a hospital, I'll say, is the best thing. For some of our clients, we have what we call the asthma action plan. And so, especially for our parents, and yes, adults, once you have asthma, you should see your doctor, and then let them also have an action plan for you, so that when you start recognizing
Some
any
of the
symptoms, there are things there are ways we teach you to, to increase how much medication to give and what to do in such situations. So let's prepare ahead. If you don't have an attack now, see your doctor soon, have an action plan, and then we can help you get better.
Manage that. Thank you. Dr. Eugene, take this one for me. Nadromo, our viewer says, in emergency cases, the relative or person at the scene panics and sometimes gets confused as to what to do. In such a situation, how do you control yourself to rescue the situation, to rush the person into a nearby hospital? Very realistic.
Yes, Nadromo.
My mom is burning. How do I, not go there,
You're not alone.
Yes.
Even us, sometimes we panic. Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not out of the books if you are panicking. It's okay to panic. But then it's also not okay to panic, because you have to consider yourself as the possible rate limiting step for the person going to the other side of the world. Yes, I know heaven is where we all yearn to be, but perhaps we are not done with what you need to do yet to go there yet.
Okay.
So you need to be calm, because being scared never solved any problem. Yes, you need to consider yourself as, you need to see yourself as the person who is going to bring some form of relief to the person. So if both of you are all jittery and nobody knows what to do, you don't get anything done.
Right.
Yes, and I don't think anybody thinks right when they are all over the place. Yes. So this one, I'll only encourage you to find some motivation from within and try and stay calm when you have
It's hard.
Like yes, it's very hard. I can understand.
If I can add,
Please do.
It says for the lack of knowledge, my people perish, right? One thing, since we are having a forum like this, once you've had this, you should also look for opportunities to learn about first aid.
Right.
And so for your families, for your businesses, start taking proactive steps. So once you have the knowledge, you feel more confident when such situations present themselves, that you wouldn't panic, and then you can, salvage the situation as much as possible.
Right. Bee stings and dog bites, are they medical emergencies? Would you classify them as medical emergencies?
They are medical emergencies.
Okay. So I've heard, I hear so many things, don't you think? That when a dog bites you and you don't get help in time, you may start barking like the dog. When a bee stings you, don't get help, you swell up and stuff. Are these true?
Yes, they could be true.
They could be true.
Barking like a dog.
It's true. That's scary. That's really scary.
But they could be true, because you will see some things that are much more scarier than barking like a dog.
Okay.
Yes, but they could be true.
Okay.
So not just bees, but I'm sure we all got exposed a little to some form of biology. So anything within the Hymenoptera sort of class. Yes, so you have these bugs that fly with a
long mouths or something.
Yes. So what happens is that when they do that, they cause some form of reaction. Okay, and this reaction causes swelling. So note that this swelling that you are seeing on the face could be possibly happening in a lot of other places, which includes this pipe that I initially described. So this pipe conducts air from outside into our lungs for us to be able to breathe. Now, when everywhere is becoming swollen, and that part also becomes swollen, it means that it's going to close up.
Yes.
Immediately it closes up, it means you cannot breathe.
Okay.
And that's a medical emergency.
Okay.
So those things are very, very important. And funny enough, it does not even just happen once and stops. It's usually biphasic. If I say biphasic, it means that after it has happened, there's a probability that it can recur after the initial
Even
event.
without another bite?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a probability that it can actually even recur after some few hours that you had the first one. So it's very important that you get to the nearest hospital. But when it happens like that, I mean, in some people's home box and all that, the first aid box, they have some antihistamines at home.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that's going to solve the problem.
Okay.
But it can be a start. And then after you've gotten a dose of it, like I said, once you've been to the hospital and then you've had some information about it, you know the right dosing. So I'm not going to be giving it off here.
Okay, so go to the hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
Because like I said, maybe the initial reaction may not be so, even though usually the second one is not as overblown as the first one, it could happen again.
Okay.
And usually what happens is that you are going to get some form of medication that you may not have readily available.
Right.
There are some people that are used to or have a host of allergies. And so because of that, they've been discharged home on some specific kind of medication,
Right.
the EpiPen,
Right.
that they have readily available. So in case they are exposed to their allergen,
They're able to
they just
administer
get
them.
able to administer
Right.
them because it's like an auto injector.
Right.
Yes, but then we unfortunately do not screen routinely for allergies
Okay.
in our parts of the world,
Okay.
unless maybe you are having persistent ones and then you do a panel.
Okay.
But then if you experience any of these things or bites, please report to your hospital. You realize that even from the initial thing, you don't see anything. Then later on you realize that your feet start becoming swollen.
And we don't feel
And then
okay.
you realize that your voice starts changing. Then you are getting close to some form of doom.
Okay.
So please do report as soon as you can.
Okay.
Yes, and then for the snake bites, we find, I'm sure our viewers mostly are finding ourselves in the urban centers, but we also work in places, or we may go to places where
They're exposed
we may be exposed to
Right. Right.
some of these things. I'm sure somebody listening to us is building their 4-bedroom apartment somewhere where they are yet to clear up the place. You can be exposed to snake bites.
Right.
Yes, the good thing about most snakes in our environment is they are not really poisonous, but you never know.
No.
Yeah. If you're able to kill the snake, don't burn it just yet. We are interested. Sometimes come and show it to us if you can.
Okay.
If you are not able to, and you're able to provide a vivid description, unfortunately most of us cannot. You report to the hospital. We will assess. We will look for signs that we think are of concern. It's important to avoid applying things above wherever has been bitten, and all of the things that we told, trying to suck out the poison or whatever it may be. Yes, you try to avoid all of those things.
Okay.
So it looks like everything we are saying.
We'll be going to the hospital. After this show, we'll go to the hospital a lot.
Yes. But then once that happens, of course, like we said, if mostly people are able to kill the snake. If you're able to bring the snake, fine. If you're able to catch a glimpse of the snake, fine. But somebody also asked me that when I'm being bitten by a snake, why would
How
I
do
stand
I
there?
look?
Yeah, so you just report to the hospital and then we'll know how to help you
Okay.
best. But for the bee sting, like I said, you can take the antihistamine if you have it readily available. Or if you're somebody who has allergies and you've developed another episode, you have the auto injector, you can go ahead and use it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be going to the hospital. Oh. We'll go. So, Dr. Nathan will take this one for me. Elik Blim Jukunu says, I once saw someone use a spoon to hold down the tongue of a person with epilepsy. This was apparently to prevent him from swallowing his tongue during a seizure. Was this the right thing to do? I've heard it before. Was it the right thing to do?
No.
Okay. Please tell
The
us.
answer is no. Like I said, once someone is having a seizure, you don't want to hold them down or constrict them. Otherwise, you may cause further injuries. And even if you put a spoon in their mouth, you may cause injuries to their tongue, to the teeth. Yes, some people may bite their tongue and injure the tongue, but we can deal with it.
Okay.
So please don't put spoons, don't tie them down. No, that's not
My
good.
head, if they are teeth, the upper one, and when they close, they die. Or is superstition? Is it a myth? No, you should dispute it.
I'm yet to see that.
You are yet to see that?
Yes,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think the only time a spoon should go in somebody's mouth is when they are
They are
being born
eating.
with- Yes, or when they are being born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
We'll take that one.
Yes.
We'll take that one. Thank
So
you.
please avoid it.
Okay.
Yes. Some of the positioning that Dr. Nathan spoke about earlier is adequate enough to prevent the tongue from falling back.
Okay.
So that alone should be
Okay.
enough.
Do your ABCDEs, your CPRs, or whatever, go to the hospital.
And then
Thank
clear
you.
the area
Yes,
around them so
give the
that they
person
don't
some
injure
good airtight
themselves.
clothing and everything. Okay,
Wonderful.
we have another question from Vida Kwapo. She says, what first aid can be given for scorpion and snake bites? Okay. when one is not close to a medical facility, are there any herbs or common things that can be applied in the interim? You took that one, so please take it again.
So, well, I'm not against herbal medicine, but then again, I don't have enough evidence on which ones.
So you're not
work.
for it
Yeah, so
either?
no. I guess I'm not for it.
Okay.
So should I have enough proof or evidence? Because basically, I'm a scientist, so I should be able to validate whatever I'm
You're speaking
putting
about,
across.
right?
So I'm sure that people who have in-depth knowledge about that, I don't have that, so I can't speak for or against it. But like I said, once you report to the hospital, we even assess to see if you have we assess the degree to which you've had the exposure.
Okay.
And then make some decisions based on that.
Okay, but is there a time frame within which you should report with your bite to a health facility?
As soon as possible.
But she's saying if you
You're
are
not
not close. Yes.
Yeah, so as soon as possible. As soon as possible can be 1 week.
Wow.
Yes, we may look at you with some eyes.
Wouldn't
when
I
you
have
arrive.
died by then? Okay.
We may look at you with some eyes when you arrive, but it's
You
your
still
as
take
soon as
care of
possible.
us. Okay.
Yes.
I also
Okay.
add that, I mean, so for some of these bites, you want to also elevate or keep the hand or the part of the body, you know, above or high up, just to prevent or reduce the swelling that may occur.
Dr. Kwabla, for 1 week.
Oh no,
Okay.
please don't
1
do
week
that.
is too
1 week
much.
there.
Okay. Okay. We'll try it as soon as possible. We'll go to the hospital. What would you say causes nosebleeds? You know, people just sit there, they touch their nostrils or something like, okay, there's blood oozing out or something. I've heard again, I hear a lot of stuff that internal bleeding may cause it, you know, so many things, but I'm not a doctor, so tell us. Dr. Eugene, you can start with that.
Yeah. So, well, maybe I like that my friend who says she eats gari and gets nosebleeds. But there are a host of things that can cause it. I think commonly trauma can be what can cause nosebleeds, but there are a lot of things that can cause it. You can have a bleeding disorder, some are on some medication. It may be the first sign of somebody even having, not to scare, but the first sign. I'm sure Google even scares more than what I'm about to say.
Yeah,
But
that's-
the first sign of you possibly having some form of cancer.
Okay.
But like I said, trauma is the most common thing that would.
When you say trauma, what do you mean?
Trauma means something hits you. So either a trauma to the head, to the nose itself, to the face, involving the nose that can cause you to have a bleed. Okay. So blood vessels or blood that supplies the nose, some are in the front part of the nose, some are in the back part of the nose. There are various things that can trigger either of them to come.
Okay.
I'm sure that other people have been told also that maybe their blood pressures went high and they had that. There's some relation that says, okay, it's possible. Some says it's not possible. Either ways, we've seen it happen. Yes, in either situations, it needs to be managed.
Okay.
Okay. So it's I hear people say mostly pinch your nose and send your nose back. No, it shouldn't be so. Okay, your head should actually you can just pinch the nose to apply the pressure.
Okay.
Because mostly what we have are the ones that are in the front part of the nose.
Okay.
So applying just a little bit of pressure could
Stop
help
the
stop
bleeding.
it. Yes, and then also to prevent it from going back and then possibly going to have you aspirate or other things. You also need to avoid sending your head back. So just tip a little forward, apply a little bit of pressure, report to the nearest hospital. Usually even with the pressure, it stops before you get to the hospital. Other times it becomes very copious that you may need some form of intervention.
Okay.
Yeah, so just so you know, you can do that. It's very rare for you to have sterile material at home to pack
to
the
fix
nose.
it, yeah.
But you do have a first aid box where you have some sterile material. That could be done if this is not working.
Okay.
And you report as soon as you can.
To the hospital.
Yes, please.
Okay. The discussion has, you know, punched a lot of holes in my myths. I thought I knew first aid though. So our question takes us to one of them. Eddie Nam says, what happens when a child drinks any toxic substance like washing detergents, kerosene and etc. at home? Does palm oil really do the trick? Is there any danger involved, Dr. Nathan? Should we drink palm oil?
So what we realize that sometimes we try to do these things and then to induce vomiting or cause people to vomit,
Right.
and that can be very dangerous. Because then they may end up, I mean, whatever they throw up might go down the windpipe and then, you know, cause more issues that way. So we wouldn't advise that. In this particular situation, you do have to come in as soon as possible In some situations, we can say keep drinking water just to help with some form of dilution. But then when you come in, we have certain substances we can do, and then procedures we can do to help to reduce the effects. It all depends on timing. If too much time has passed, sometimes the effects of whatever they've taken will be felt. But if you come early enough, we can have procedures, what we call like a gastric lavage. So we sort of try to bring out what is in the stomach so that the body doesn't absorb it.
Any of that.
Yes, coming in early is really key to preventing further damage. But let's not do all these.
Let's not drink palm oil.
Let's not do that.
Okay. We have a comment by Nadromo. Nadromo says, first aid helps give immediate treatment to keep the victim's condition from deteriorating until the emergency response is ready to take over. These basic nuggets and knowledge are very important to note to help save a life at home and the office. I think we all agree.
Yes.
And Dr. Efra Abrahams also says, I think prevention is a very important step to take to minimize accidents, especially in children, such as keeping small items and home detergents that can be accidentally swallowed away from them. How careful can we be? We can only try. Okay, from our discussion, it looks like we've been taking a lot of things into our own hands, but we are learning that we should visit the hospital as soon as we can when some of these things happen. Gloria Megache says, first aid helps with immediate treatment to keep the victim's condition from deteriorating until the emergency response is ready to take over, just like Nadromo says. Thank you so much, viewers. We are going for a quick break. We'll be right back. We've been discussing what to do in a medical emergency. Please stay tuned.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
This is GKV Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month. This is GKV Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month. This is GKV Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
This week, we've been discussing what to do in medical emergencies. We have looked at a number of situations. We have discussed, first aid techniques and what you should do. And essentially, we have learned that as much as we can, we should visit the nearest medical facility for help. We shouldn't take issues into our own hands. We are still taking questions and comments. We are streaming live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms. We have our WhatsApp number active, 0501 579 996, 0501 579 996. We are taking your questions, your comments, and any suggestions you might have. In the course of the discussion, we mentioned that at the latter part, we will take viewers and ourselves through how to help a person that is choking, both in adults and infants. And we also look at CPR. So right now we have Dr. Safua Otu Anakwa, an emergency medicine resident, and Dr. Amanda Bediakon Osei, also an emergency medicine resident. They are going to give us the practical aspects of CPR and choking in infants and adults. Over to you, doctors, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So, just like just as Shirley mentioned, my colleagues are going to take us through that. So we already spoke about patients who are choking, and we already spoke about the universal choke sign. Okay, so you have somebody who is holding onto their neck this way, then most likely the person is choking. So we have our patients, or we not a patient, but we are in a restaurant eating some banku and okra soup. Unfortunately, the okra was not smooth enough to send the banku down, so the banku got choked up there. And then you see this woman who walks up to you, tearing and doing this. So we'll have our intervention from our rescuer.
Hello, my name is Dr. Twanakwa. I can help you. Please relax. Can you cough for me? Cough. Okay, so since she cannot cough, that means we should go ahead with a Heimlich maneuver. And then with the Heimlich maneuver, you introduce yourself to the patient or the victim. You introduce yourself to the victim and then reassure her that you are competent enough to help her. Then with that competency and assurance, you arc yourself towards the patient's body. Place one arm around the umbilicus or the tummy region. You make a fist, a tight fist like this, with your leg in between her legs so that you don't fall back with the patient. And then you place your other arm, a flat palm, over the fist that you've made. Then you go upwards, so it's inwards and upwards. So inwards, upwards. And then you rescue her. You're welcome, my patient. Thank you for rescuing her. So this is called the Heimlich maneuver. If the patient is stable enough, because she was coughing, you can encourage her to cough. And if she cannot cough, and then you go ahead to do this maneuver. However, should you do that maneuver and the patient becomes unresponsive or collapses, then you go ahead to do the basic life support. And the basic life support, Dr. Adomako will run us through the practical aspects of it. When we have a child who is also choking at home, that is an infant, Dr. Amanda is going to take us through what to do.
Yes, so you have a child that is choking, just like adults, children can also choke. Okay, so occasionally you may be able to, like I said, you should not be tempted. You may be seeing what is in the mouth, okay, but you should not be tempted to go sweep or do a finger sweep of what's in the mouth, because whilst attempting to do that, you may end up pushing whatever object is there and then you may cause some further issues. Okay, so unlike the adults who can stand for you to be able to apply the pressure or do the thrust in the abdomen, for children also, you could also make a thrust somewhere in the lower part of their chest, okay? And then, so what you're going to do is you're going to give the thrust in the lower part of the chest 5 times, okay? And observe for a response, just like it's being demonstrated here. Then just after that, you support the head, turn the baby over, and then you give some back slaps. Yes. So you keep doing it, you repeat it. Okay, our baby is crying.
Okay.
Yes. So if you are to encounter this in infants, this is what you're supposed to do. Yes. In children, it may follow the same pattern as the adults. Okay. And sometimes somebody will ask, what if the person cannot stand? Because occasionally when the person is in so much distress, they are not able to stand.
Right.
Then you kneel with them, and then you do it for them. Other times, somebody will ask, what if a pregnant woman is also enjoying herself, and they decided to have, or not decided to choke, but unfortunately chokes. Yes. Are you going to be pressing on the belly, and then cause some form of damage? You can just come right above where we do what we call the chest thrust. The same maneuver, come just a little bit close to the chest, and then do the same things, and then you can remove the patient. So, like we were saying, a patient or the person may not respond immediately. That is void of the choke. And then also you may have somebody who would you've got to meet lying by the roadside who is unconscious. So we use the word faint in a particular manner. Maybe you've observed it. Now today we've discussed what it looks like to have actually fainted. We discussed what a seizure looks like. Now we want to know a patient who is unconscious and lying by the roadside. How do you approach this particular patient or this particular person? Okay. So first of all, you must always assess and make sure that your scene is safe. So you must assess that your scene is safe, because if your scene is not safe, then you're endangering both your lives and that of the person that is there. If your scene is not safe, you make it safer by either moving the person from there, other people can move the person from there, or you get the appropriate personnel to come and do that. Like we said, in a bit of an accident, state of an accident, the fire personnel and then the police. Okay. So once your scene is safe, of course you have to find out if your patient is responsive or not. So you have to call your patient, okay, and find out if the patient is responsive or not. So if that is Mr. Kwame lying down on the floor, you call, or hello sir, and sometimes just the verbal calling is not enough. You may have to actually hit the patient, or not hit the patient per se, but try to arouse the patient as much as you can. And in so doing, my colleague will demonstrate it, so you will see how best it is to be able to arouse the patient.
Okay.
Then once you realize that your person is unresponsive, at that moment it means you need to get some help, because you are going to need help, whether or not, your next steps is going to yield a positive response or not, you still need help because you found somebody who's unconscious.
You do.
Okay, so you call for help, and then just like Dr. Kobler described for us, you go ahead and you check if the patient has a pulse.
It's a pulse.
So we spoke about this windpipe here. Okay, so just when you feel it, okay, just to the side, when you put these two fingers over there, you feel something beating over there. Okay, that's a vessel. Okay, that's the carotid, and that's how you can feel the pulse. You can either do it on the left or on the right. Please don't do it at the same time, because maybe you will be the one to cause the person to actually collapse or have whichever issue they may have. So just one at a time. You can either do it on the left or on the right side. And then if you are not feeling it or you are not sure of what you are feeling, you don't check for more than 10 seconds. So if you are not too sure exactly what's happening, assume that there's no pulse. Okay. And then whilst you are doing it, you are also assessing to see if the person is breathing or not. By doing so, you are seeing the person's chest is rising and falling, or like you said, with your face closed, the person's face, you are feeling you're trying to feel the breath that is coming from there. And if the person doesn't have a pulse or the person is not breathing, then it means you are going to start what we call the chest compressions.
Before the chest compressions, what should I feel? If I'm checking for a pulse, we keep hearing feel the pulse, check for a pulse. What should I feel to know that I'm getting a pulse?
So you're feeling something beating. So it comes to hit your hand and goes away.
It goes, okay.
So I'm sure our viewers at home can attempt it. Put your hand right to the side of this bulge in your neck. Just up there, you can feel something beating there.
At least I can. I don't know for the others.
I'm sure they can.
Okay.
Yes. So you can feel something beating over there. So if you don't feel that, usually when you have such a situation, it's the last one to go away.
Okay.
Okay, it's the last one to go away. We have other ones that you can feel. So other times you see people feeling here and here. But this is the last one to usually go away when you're in a much more tight situation.
Okay.
Okay, so when you feel it and it's not there, you're also checking and looking for your breathing. Then you can start your compressions.
Okay.
Okay. So with the compressions, as I speak, my colleague will show us. So you are going to look for a particular part of the chest.
Okay.
So we have the breastplate of righteousness. This time you are looking for a sternum.
Okay.
Okay. So the sternum is our breastbone. Breastbone. So realize that when you're coming from the same windpipe, you will meet a notch here. The thing that connects to our Rollins chain. Okay, you meet a notch here. Right beneath it, you feel this hard part over here. That is what we call the sternum.
Okay.
That comes all the way down to your abdomen. So you see that it spans from here, right from the notch to the upper part of the abdomen. Okay, so that's how long that bone is. You would with an imaginary line, divide this bone into 3. I know it sounds a little sophisticated, but as we go along, you see it. So with an imaginary line, divide into 3. So in as much as we think that the heart is here, and so we should do our compressions here, we have a part of the heart that we want to squeeze, which lies down there.
Okay.
Okay. So that's why we come to this particular part and not this part. Okay. So we have an imaginary line to divide this into 3, and then we choose the lower third of it, the one that is closest to the abdomen, and that is where we are going to do our compressions. In doing so, you are going to get your dominant hand. If your dominant hand is the left, you use your dominant hand. Interlock with your least dominant hand. Okay. And then you are going to use this portion of your hand over that area that you've chosen. And that is where you are going to do your compressions. Okay. So then I will let my colleague go ahead and then demonstrate for us for what we've said so far, right? So that we can have some pictorial thing to go along with it.
Okay. So first, when you get to the scene and you see someone lying down, or maybe you have the information that someone has collapsed, you need to first check your scene safety. Is your scene safe? So we'll be assessing. Assuming it happened on the road and there is traffic, you don't just jump in the middle of the road because you've been taught how to do CPR. You are going to save these patients. No, because there'll be other vehicles coming from both sides. So you would want to help, with the help of the police or with your own help, stop the oncoming and ongoing vehicles. Then you get a safe scene and move the patient to the roadside, the side of the road. Yeah. So after doing that, now you check for responsiveness by going down. If you know the patient, if you know the client or the patient, you can call him by his name. Maybe for purposes of this demonstration, Dr. Eugene, I tapped him at the side of his shoulder or the clavicle, and that is hard enough to cause some response from him. So since he's not responding, I quickly go towards that bump he mentioned. So in the midline of the neck, you slip your hand into a groove. So you go down midline, then slide into the groove. Is there anything bounding? And that's what we call the pulse. So if you get something bounding, then it means the patient has a pulse. But with the CPR or the basic life support, if the patient does not have a pulse, you don't get anything bounding. You check whether the patient is breathing. And breathing, you can use your ear, go close to the nose and then the mouth to feel for any breeze or air. And then also look at the chest. Is the chest rising or not? So you inspect. This chest is not rising. You should also not feel for the pulse for more than 10 seconds. So I did that within 10 seconds. I had no response. I've inspected or going for the respiration, for breathing, there's nothing. Quickly, you divide the chest into 3, as he said. And at the mid portion, you fix your dominant hand. So your dominant hand, I'm right-handed. So your dominant hand goes down and then you interlock it. So you interlock, I'm right-handed, that one goes down and then I interlock. And then you make your elbow straight. And then we start what we call chest compression. So on a count, we are counting up to 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Before you start this chest compression, if you are home, and for the purposes of this discussion, is how to identify emergencies in the household or by the roadside, you quickly call for help. Because as you realize we're just doing 30 chest compression, my voice started going down, meaning I was getting tired. I cannot do this throughout. So as soon as I realize that I need to do the chest compression, I have to call for help. So I shout for people to come in. And that help that is coming in, as soon as they come, you delegate. You can't be the hero of the day. So you delegate by letting some call the ambulance. So you should know the ambulance code, 112. And when that person calls the ambulance, they should give the information, the background information, and help will come. So when that person comes back after calling the ambulance, that person can take over from you and you take turns to be doing the chest compression till help comes in. And after 2 minutes of doing that compression, you check for the pulse to see if there is a return of the pulse. If there is no return of pulse, you go ahead with your chest compression till help comes in. Please, do you understand?
Dr. Otu Anakwa, I have watched so many movies. When do you do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation?
Okay. So we do not really advise mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because I said that if it's by the roadside, you do not know the person. So we prefer that out of the hospital, you do chest compression only. However, if it's your dear one at home, you want to do your all. So you can, after the 30 chest compression, then you give 2 rescue breaths. So with that, you can have a rubber seal over the mouth, and then you create a hole and do that. So you give 2 rescue breaths. So 1, so assuming this is a film, I'm using my palms as a film, and then creating a slit in between. So after doing the 30 chest compression, I come in, tilt the head, and then so you tilt the head backwards, do a jaw thrust, and with your palm in between as an improvised seal, you give 2 rescue breaths. 1, 2. When you are done, you quickly resume your chest compression. Again, with those who have been trained, we have trainings for basic life support. Those who have been trained for basic life support, we give them a portable valve mask. And every basic life support provider has it at home. So if you have that, it's a valve which prevents the exchange of air from the patient or the victim to you. So you can use it when that scenario arises.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Doctor.
Yeah, so then I'd also like to add that, so this is for the adults. Somebody asked what of the children. So for children, all you do is that you halve the number of compressions. So instead of 30, you do 15. Then it's to 2 of the breaths. If it's a neonate, a child that is born 21 days or less, then you can do 3 of the compressions, and then you give 2 of the breaths. Okay. So basically, that's what it's about. And this, as you see, is a lifesaver. And people, I don't know, unless you see it work, it becomes doubtful. But trust me, once you do this, it works. It works, and you can save a lot of lives. So let's go out there and see, like, should we encounter this? Okay.
I've always wanted to learn CPR. Thank you. We have a question by George Edu. He says, I once watched a movie in which a girl choked after eating something that created an inflammation in her throat. A doctor was seen giving an injection for the girl to stop choking. What is one advice to do when there's no doctor?
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned, that you could have people with known allergies. Could have an allergy, and then because of the allergic reaction, they have the swelling of the throat. So it's not necessarily choking, but the throat is swelling such that they are unable to take in enough air. So I spoke about the auto-injector that those people are discharged room on. So those people usually have the auto-injectors. Unfortunately, like I said, the treatment for that is a particular medication called adrenaline. And it's not readily available in every corner. Also. So what you can do at that point in time is that you try to keep the airway open. In an open space, airway open. And then send to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. In the initial phases where it has not gotten there yet, then you can give the antihistamines I spoke about. So you can give just a dose of antihistamine on the way to the hospital. Because what the patient needs is oxygen and the adrenaline, which you do not have. So you can open up the airway and then go on. But usually, when this happens, the next thing that follows is that the patient may also arrest if they don't get also as soon as possible. Then now that you've learned the CPR, you can commence the CPR, and then you can get it also and then have the intervention that the patient needs to have as soon as possible.
There's a question. I have one interesting one, but I'll ask this one first. It says, what can you do when a child complains of pain in the heart and can't breathe properly? Do we feel pain in our hearts?
Yeah, well, I would say chest pain.
Chest pain.
Chest pain will come from a host of issues. Yes, when you come to the hospital and you see you have chest pain, you can imagine the number of things that we do just to look for the cause of that chest pain. And then we're able to narrow it down. So, yes, like we spoke in, there are some home over-the-counter medication that can be given for pain relief. But chest pain is usually dangerous. In the hospital, we put it at a scale where we think needs to be attended to urgently. So if you have chest pain, you can head to the hospital as soon as possible. But of course, you can use something to help relieve the pain and then decide to move to the hospital. There are a host of things that can cause chest pain for anybody at all.
So go to the hospital.
Yes, please. So you can give any pain relief of choice. In adults with risk factors, sometimes you are concerned about a heart attack and all of that. So sometimes people may give some aspirin to help with that, and then you head to the hospital. Yes, please.
Go to the hospital, viewers. Another one says, are there some natural antihistamines in these choking situations?
Like I said, I'm not...
You know?
Yes. Natural and herbal medication are not my forte. But I believe there are, but I don't have enough information about it. Yes, I don't have enough information.
So you'd rather not speak to that?
Yes, please.
So when Dr. Amanda was demonstrating how to relieve an infant of the choking, she said slap the baby's back.
Yes.
How hard should those slaps be? Because babies of any age can choke, right?
Yes.
So I'm imagining a 2 weeks old baby or a 1 month, how hard should a slap be?
Well, it's either the red back or the life.
Well,
Yes. It's
okay.
either
So
red
should
back
it be
or
as
life.
hard as it can be, or we should be reasonable?
Oh, as hard as it can be. Even the Heimlich maneuver, what she was doing was because maybe she didn't want to cause some issues for her.
Okay.
It needs to be quite aggressive.
Okay.
You need to be aggressive because it's a matter of life and death. Yes. If it's about massage, you could have just sent the person to some spa or something when the person was choking.
Okay.
Yes, but if you really want to save their life, then you need to do your best.
Okay.
Yes,
So the hard slaps will not kill the baby.
Oh no,
Okay.
no.
I need to
I
be
mean,
sure.
even after some of these procedures, you end up having rib fractures and the rest. They will heal in 6 weeks, but you will live.
But they will live.
Yes, please.
Okay, interesting. Daniel Kuchachi says, what will you do, or what should you do after you have eaten a well-prepared meal and after a few minutes you feel like vomiting, feel nauseous? What should you do? He's
Okay.
asking.
So it depends on your definition of well-prepared meal. Because I like medium rare, you like very well done.
Well,
So it depends.
do we
first
eat
off.
steak in Ghana?
Well, it depends. And then following that also, so feeling nauseous, it's a sign of discomfort.
Okay.
The sign of discomfort. You see, sometimes I think the description of symptoms sometimes are a little bit subjective,
Yeah.
because I think people have not gotten to really understand what
Sure.
the symptoms really are.
Sure.
And so sometimes when you come to the hospital and you're being asked questions or being probed further, you may get upset because you're asking you too many questions. But sometimes because your understanding of what you think this is may not be what we think it is. Yes, but nausea, there's really not much you can do about nausea. What you can do is maybe take some a light bland fluid, mostly water, and other times you can take something that suppresses nausea for yourself, which I'm sure you'll be much familiar with if you've ever experienced it before. Yes, but if it's coming with the vomiting and the diarrhea and other things, especially right after eating meals, then you may have some concerns with some food poisoning. If I say food poisoning, it doesn't mean somebody has poisoned your food, literally. It could be that you have some bacteria that has released some things that are not settling too well with you. Then you may need some intensive supportive therapy. Yes, but like I said, you can start off with some fluids if you're able to keep them down, and then start off with the fluids and then see if there's some improvement. If there's none and you're having some palpitations, weakness and other things, then it means you need to report a nurse also as soon as you can. Yes, please.
Okay.
But nausea is usually not too concerned, except it's associated with some other life-threatening symptoms.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So in our discussions, we mentioned some recovery positions. I think we were talking about the seizures and some other things.
Yes.
We've not seen that.
So unfortunately,
Would you want us to call
we
your
don't have a
doctors
picture.
in? We
But
can't use the dummies.
Yes, we can use the baby.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I
should
think
we
can
call
use
your
the baby.
doctors in, or you'd help us? Okay.
So, what we usually do is that we usually, so like we said, we want the head goes to the side. Okay. I don't think this our baby can help us in the recovery position. No, it may be a little difficult to do. Yes, so you have to lie down on the floor. Is that the screen? Okay, Doctor, I think Doctor can use me as an example. I don't mind demonstrating. Yes. So let's say I'm already like this or something, and then she finds me on the floor.
So you just turn him. This way. And then in the left lateral side. So this is his left, this is his right. You turn him this way. Come next to it.
That's okay.
Left lateral side.
That is the recovery position. What is that supposed to help? So the stuff can come out of their mouth, anything choking them. We mentioned that. Okay.
Secretions can come out. so that he does not get aspirated. And then also it helps with further seizures that he may have.
Okay.
Whilst you are trying to
Okay.
transport the patient to the hospital.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Otu Anakwa and Dr. Adomako.
Okay.
Our patient who has been smiling a lot in his recovery position. But thank you. Today has been a very educative session. Would you like to? Or you said enough?
Oh,
No
yes, I
final
think-
words. You're fine.
Yes.
Okay. Today has been very educative and informative. We are having all of this for free. This is nice, really nice. I'd like to appeal to our viewers to share the link. If you have never shared the Let's Talk About link, share today's own. Save a life, teach someone something new. I've learned a lot and I know you have too. My name is Sedinam Togo Lamadeku. I've been here with Dr. Eugene Adomakun, Dr. Nathan Kwabla, Dr. Fosua Otu Anakwa, and Dr. Amanda. We have been talking about what to do in medical or emergency medical situations. We have learned CPR, we have learned what to do when an infant or an adult is choking, we have learned the basic principles of first aid. We have been advised to take some training in first aid, to go to the hospital as soon as we can. When we do all of these, we can save lives, reduce mortality rates and all of that in Ghana. Thank you so much. We are very grateful. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you same time next week here on Wednesday. This has been Let's Talk About. Good night.